Hi everyone, Mrs. Jones here. Welcome back to day 2 of Zero Product Property, or as you learned, ZPP. Let's dive in. So I want you to pause the video here and see if you notice anything about the orange versus the blue and try to solve both equations. All right, hopefully you've noticed that there is in fact a really minor but very big difference. So if you look at the blue, we know that there's invisible multiplication between my two sets of parentheses. If you look at the orange, there's addition. So this means that on the left, we can use ZPP. On the right, it's back to the basics of 7th grade and solving the equation. So on the left, we're going to use ZPP and solve for our two solutions. On the right, you're going to combine your like terms, use inverse operations, and solve for your one solution. So I'd love for you to try these 4 problems, just a quick little review of ZPP that you learned in video 1. So pause the video and try these. All right, you're back. Here we go. Hopefully all of these look good. All right, let's try something new with ZPP. You heard me say in the first video, if you see x squared, x, and nothing else, then you use ZPP. We didn't really use that too much in the first video because we already had it separated into our a times b equals 0. Well, today in this video, you're going to really use this rule. So I want you to remember x squared, x, and nothing else. ZPP is the way to go. So here we go. There's something called undistributed. And undistributing, you may be thinking, sounds a lot like distributive property, but not quite the same. Well, you're correct. Undistributing is essentially like backwards distributive property. So if you look at the example in our little red bubble, if I start with 3x plus 3, undistributing is going to allow me to work backwards to what was it before I distributed. So when we're thinking about ZPP and the equation on the left, I have my x squared, my x, and nothing else. So I'm going to use ZPP, but first I need to undistribute. So we're going to look at our two terms here of x squared and negative 2x, and I want to think about what do they share. So I see that they share an x. So I'm going to take my x outside the parentheses and redraw my parentheses. Now I'm going to think about what am I going to multiply x by so that I can get back to my x squared. Well, that's going to have to be an x, right? Because x times x is x squared. Now I want to think about what am I going to multiply my x by to get back to my negative 2x. Well, that's going to be my negative 2. Now here, in my green, I'm back to what you had in the first video of your a times b equals 0. In other words, I can think about my red triangle and my blue box. And now I can solve, right? We know that this is going to get us a solution of 0, and we know that this is going to get us a solution of 2. So again, x squared, x, and nothing else, we need to undistribute in order to be able to use ZPP. Let's try another. Hopefully this looks really similar. I'm looking at my two terms, and I'm thinking about what do they have in common. I know they have x in common, so I'm going to pull that out. Then I'm going to think about what do I need to multiply x by to get back to x squared. That's going to be an x. What do I need to multiply x by to get back to negative 3x? That's going to be a negative 3. Now I'm able to think about my red triangle and my blue box. My red triangle is going to get me to a solution of 0, and my blue box is going to get me to a solution of positive 3. This one is a little trickier. The reason for that is my x squared now has a coefficient that's no longer 1. So I'm still going to think about what do my terms share, and I know they share an x. But the fact that there's this coefficient here, I now want to think about what do 4 and negative 6 share. The thing that they share is a 2. So I'm actually going to take out a 2x in my equation. So now when I distribute, I'm thinking 2x times what gets me to 4x squared? Well, 2 times 2 gets me to 4, and x times x will get me to x squared. So 2x inside. Then I'm going to think about what do I need to multiply by to get back to my negative 6? X, sorry. So that's going to be a negative 3. Again, now I have it separated into my a times b equals 0. So my red triangle here will get me a solution of 0, and my blue box will get me a solution of 3 halves. I'd love for you to pause the video here and try this next equation on your own. So hopefully you saw that you should take out a 5x because 5 goes into both 15 and 10. and then you were left with 3x plus 2. So your two solutions were 0 and negative 2/3. Okay, I want you to pause the video here and think about these two equations and try to solve them. Hopefully you're realizing, this actually is not ZPP, right? Do I have x squared x and nothing else? No, you do not. So here, we cannot use ZPP. So as you go to solve these, right, you would be subtracting 16 on the left, adding 16 on the right, and trying to isolate that x squared. But notice what happens. On the left, I'm trying to take the square root of a negative number, and on the right, I'm trying to take the square root of a positive number, and there's a big difference there. On the left, we end up with NRS, and on the right, we end up with positive or negative 2. So keep in mind, x squared x and nothing else, ZPP. If that's not what I see, I'm just solving the equation. All right, I'd love for you to try these 4 questions, pause the video, and then I'll reveal the answers. Keep in mind, when can you use ZPP and when can't you? All right, here we go. The purple is my undistributing, and then I have my solutions. Notice this one, you can't use ZPP, it's just solving an equation. All right, hopefully those felt good. Remember, if you see x squared x and nothing else, ZPP. Now for a toughie. I want you to pause the video and see what you can do here. All right, here we go. Perhaps you've seen, all right, I have x cubed now, x and nothing else. Can I use ZPP? Well, let's try to undistribute. Okay, I'm thinking about what do my terms share? They share an x. So inside my parentheses, as I'm thinking about x times x is going to get me to x cubed. X times what, sorry? It's going to get me to x cubed. That's going to be x squared. X times what is going to get me to negative x? That's going to be negative 1. All right, so now I have my a times b equals 0, but my b is the part that looks a little bit different. So I think about my red triangle, and I know that this is going to get me an answer of 0, so I feel good about that. My blue box, though, looks a little complicated, but let's go back to what we know. Let's create an equation in order to solve. So I have x squared minus 1 equals 0. All right, we can solve this. We're going to add 1 to both sides. So I have x squared equals 1, and now I'm going to take the square root, and I'm going to get x equals positive or negative 1. So again, this was a little bit of a toughie, but you can do it, right? Start with what you know, and you'll actually find out that you can in fact do it. So hopefully this all makes sense. If you have any questions, let us know, and I'll see you back here for day 3 of ZPP.